Welcome, everyone. My name is Lilia Perez. I'm the Grants and Programs Manager for Arts Mid-Hudson, and we're all here tonight to have an artist talk and hear from the artists who are part of our exhibit that we've done in partnership with New Horizons, IDEA Black Lives Matter. And this has been a show that we've been working on for, at this point, Arts Mid-Hudson's been involved for about a year in various iterations. And we are just thrilled to have kept this show going, find new ways to show this artist's work, and really highlight the importance of the Black Lives Matter movement, of individual artists being able to express themselves through their art and initiate conversations and action, and also for communities to utilize art to explore ideas related to equity, diversity, access, and inclusion, and speak let their voices be heard about the Black Lives Matter movement and their feelings about inequity and social justice. And I'd like to ask David McGorry, who's been, really spearheaded all of this from the beginning, to talk a little bit about how this all got started.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm David McGorry. It's nice to meet you all. I'm the Director of Development at New Horizons Resources. And this particular exhibition came to light a couple of years ago, actually now. And it was right after the killing of George Floyd. And what happened was my executive director, I'm part of the executive team, like the CFO and the different directors. He had gotten a note from somebody who was a direct support professional. And all it said on it was from a woman who we found out later was Black. And she said, I need your help. I can't come to work every day because I'm afraid. She lives with her father, her partner, and her son. So she lived with three men, and she was afraid that every day when she left to go to work, she was going to not have one of them when she came back. It was just gotten to her to that much. So he brought it to us, the directors, and he said that this had happened and said, this must be going on with other people. And people had been talking about it separately. He said, should we make this an initiative? Should we do something about this together as a team and as an agency? And he got full support for that, which was great. But we didn't know exactly what to do. We didn't know what we were going to do. So he brought together a team of us. He asked me to get involved, one or two other people, and then we opened it up to anybody who wanted to join. And we had about 7 people in different roles in the agency. And first we began to discuss things we could do. And then somebody came up with the idea of having an exhibition, an art exhibition, because if we did that, we support people who have developmental disabilities. Some of them can't read, a lot of them can, but some of them can't. They don't express themselves in the same way we do. And we thought that art would be their way of doing that. And our initial plan was to put it around our building, our administrative building. And so we started to request, we put out over our email system, asking people what they thought. And then I wrote about it in the newsletter. We had the woman who came forward write a story in the newsletter. We did invite other people to join the committee if they wanted to. And my colleague, both a family member at New Horizons and a colleague, Marielle Horowitz, is on our call right now. She joined as a parent. So we started to open the door to other people joining the committee. And then we decided that we'd extend the idea of the artwork opportunity to the entire community. We'd make it inclusive. And I was tasked with finding a place to exhibit it because we thought in the middle of COVID that putting it in our building wasn't really going to make a difference. Even a lot of the people that worked there couldn't come in the administration building because of the COVID virus. So we started work on the art, and I began to seek out an art gallery. And I tried a couple of different things, and the Cornell Creative Arts Center in Kingston liked the idea. They liked where we were going. And at that time, I didn't have all the inventory. I had about 5 pieces of our work. And then we opened it up to professional artists and people in the community. And they got very interested in it. I mean, I was nervous that we'd get any artwork, but people really thought it was a great opportunity and an avenue. So we had 3 or 4 professional artists that came forward and offered us work. This space at Cornell, I hadn't seen it, but when I went up there, it was beautiful. It was brand new. It was very professional looking. In fact, it's like a couple of times the size of the Arts Mid-Hudson Gallery, but it looks the same, the white gallery. It's very nice. And we put about 20 pieces of art, from about 15 of which were done by the people we support. They were all different. There were paintings, there were collages, there was poetry, there was sculpture, any way you expressed yourself on this issue. And we also opened it, when we opened it to the community, I got connected through a contact. Actually, we give out an award every year for community leadership. Someone who had won the award came to me and said, I know a great piece of work, and it's from the Oakwood School in Spackenkill High School, and you'll just love the story that goes with it. And that's how we found our way to Mary, who you're going to hear from a little bit later. And we began to get into the community and get different pieces of work in there. So we ended up with about 25 pieces. And that ran for about 3 months up in Kingston. And then we brought ours back. We returned all the artwork. Oakwood took their work back. And then we took ours back to our own facility, and I stored it there. And then Arts Mid-Hudson and I connected through some community work. I'm on the nonprofit committee for the Dutchess Chamber of Commerce. And we got together and they said, well, we don't have a space for this. This is about 2 years ago, but we think we could put it in about 4 or 5 galleries in the Hudson Valley, and we'll also put it online. So that's what they did. And then we then had it across all different towns and smaller galleries, so many more people had access to it. We opened it up again, and we got a number of new artists that joined us this time. We had about 65 pieces by, I think, the time we did that one, including all of ours plus theirs. And then we did that for about 3 or 4 months. And then we got the opportunity with Arts Mid-Hudson. Lilia and I were talking, and she got in touch with me and said, we have this new gallery space. We've done over the work. We'd like to bring it to Arts Mid-Hudson. And that was great, because I like that particular. I love being all over the Hudson Valley. I like the one in Kingston too. This one in particular, a lot of our houses are near that gallery, are certainly within, easy driving distance of it. And our main office is near there, the administration office. So a lot more people that we know, like that worked on this, can get to see it. Now, I don't have all the artists with me tonight, but I have taken some time out as I tried to, as Lily was trying to get this together. And I've spoken with them in more depth about how they actually created the pieces. So I can share some of that with you as we talk later. But so that's how we got here. And if nobody has any questions, Lily, you can take it right back.
Thank you, David. I think next, thank you for all of that background information about all the different ways that this work has been seen and how it all came together. And now I'd love to hear from Mary Haddad and a little bit about your work. And Mary's gonna share some images with us and talk about her process.
Beautiful. Thank you. Hey, everyone. My name is Mary Haddad. I live in Poughkeepsie. I'm about like a 2-minute drive from Oakwood. That'll come in later in the story. But at the moment, I am a student. I'm studying painting at Boston University. I just got out of the class. So excuse me if I'm a little tired. It's a 3-hour class, so that's another story. I'm planning on studying painting and doubling it with political science and philosophy. And I will be talking about a Black Lives Matter piece that I created, and that has been painted by 43 other students. And let me touch on this so we can get into it. I think it should be going. Yeah. Are we good?
Yeah, we see it fine. I see it.
Beautiful. So we're gonna start from the beginning. This is September 24th, 2020, so 2 years ago, which is hard for me to fathom. But during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, Oakwood School put up a Black Lives Matter sign. And also, for clarification, this is a collaboration between myself, the youth of the Spackenkill community, and Oakwood School District. Spackenkill High School had no involvement in this piece. The district didn't have any involvement in this piece. But there was one club, Youth Against Racism, that I was helped spread the news. But overall, it was Oakwood students and students that like I was friends with at the time, because at the time I was a senior in high school. Um, so yeah, so this is like kids and Oakwood Friends School. This is the very beginning. Oakwood School put up a Black Lives Matter banner right in front of the school along the main road. And I always drive past this road, and I saw the sign going up and down, up and down. And I didn't understand the story behind like it going up and down until I saw this video. A peer of mine, I saw it on Snapchat, and they posted it on Snapchat. I'm gonna mute it. And it was a video of this young kid, a student at Spacklekill, um, tearing down this sign in the middle of broad day with the most obnoxious car possible, with a bright yellow canoe on the top, which I don't even know if it's legally placed. But you see him tearing it down, and then to the right, it's a picture like a month and a half later, and it's someone I'm not sure if we were able to track it down to who did it, but they burned it. This is the day before the first day of volunteering. They burned it from the middle. And at the time, September 24th, around that time, I was taking AP art, and I was working on my first, like I just started working on my final, no, I finished one of my first large scale pieces. And I was like, you know what? I think a mural to replace this would be really cool. This was like one of my first ideas. We're all familiar with the murder of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. Just like a simple design to get the message across. And I didn't know if this banner was Oakwood Schools, or if it was someone who put it up, or if this property was public, like, or town property, or if it was property that belonged to Oakwood Schools. So I like Googled Oakwood Schools number. I'm 17, 18 at the time. No, 17 at the time. So I called them. I was like, hey, I'm just curious if this is your property. And I explained to them, they were asking questions. I explained to them my idea. Someone forwarded me to someone else. We got to chatting, and we decided to create a collaboration project. And through brainstorming with a couple of my friends as well, we got to the concept of creating this collaborative mural that would incorporate portraits of people who have been murdered by the police, and a statement. All Black Lives Matter, say their names. This is the design that I put together. I researched a bunch of stories of people who have been murdered by the police. That was probably the hardest part, because going through all of those stories and making sure that there are photos of the victims online. But I was able to find these photos, find these stories. I'm not going to talk about their stories because I don't think we have enough time, but because this is recorded, we'll see it, and you'll be able to pause it, go back, even do your own little research if you're interested, which I hope you are. It's always good. Not always good, but it's good to know these stories. I think it's really important, and I always try to talk about it. But yeah, I designed this on Photopea, which is like a free version of Photoshop. And if you are a beginning artist, or if you are into Photoshop, trying Photopea out first, testing out the waters, is a great tool. But yeah, so this is the first design. Now we're going to kind of getting into the process. Then I drew it on paper. So the idea was, it's a collaborative piece. So how do I get a bunch of people to work on an artistic piece? People who aren't necessarily artistically inclined, or people who are beginner artists, or people who have even like never touched a paintbrush ever. So I came to the idea of a collaborative, like big old coloring book, paint by number. And you can see I did it on pencil first, which I wasn't able to do as much detail, but I inscribed it onto my iPad, which is really cool. I used a free app called Sketchbook. You can also, I bought the app, I forgot what it's called, but the normal app that everyone uses. But this was done on an app called Sketchbook. If you want to, definitely go get it. It's free. Yeah, so this was the process. And then once I got my color palette down, I worked with a student named Jareth, who is graduated now. We got this color palette down, and then I kind of ran with this idea, got this color palette together. We came to the conclusion of using a purplish tone to tap into immortality, and I'll use it as a form of symbolism. Plus, purple is just a beautiful color too, and it went really well. So each color is associated with a number, as you can see on the left. And this was like a big old coloring book, and this was the digital design. I've done 2 other murals like this. I have a mural up in Vassar at the moment, in their dining hall, and it's done in the same design. But this is the digital design. I always do a digital design first. Some zoom ins. And this is the post that I put together on an app called PhotoGrid. Very easy, free. And I posted it. I posted on my art account. People who I knew, who I followed, posted it. They reposted it. People who they knew that I didn't necessarily know reposted it. So word got around by me, as well as the club that I was a part of reposting it, and Oakwoods spreading the news to their students as well. This is just a little zoom in. So we printed it out. The art teacher at Oakwoods, Elizabeth, printed it out, and we used a projector to project it onto the wall. Though, fun fact, the whole bottom half was drawn upside down, and we kind of went in. I went in. I drew all these lines, creating like this coloring book. Put all the numbers so kids can paint in the little blobs. I think this video no longer exists, apparently. That was just a little time lapse. You can see it on my Instagram. My Instagram will be shown at the end, of a time lapse of me drawing it. And then you can even see the bottom half being drawn upside down. So this is the painting. Now we're getting into the good stuff. This is when kids started volunteering. So we used house paint, acrylic paint from Lowe's, and each color is associated with a number. We poured it into these little plastic cans, and these containers, and the kids got a big old palette, used paintbrushes from the school, and they would have to remember the number or keep double checking, but they would use this palette and these paintbrushes to paint. These are a bunch of photos. There was a total of 45 volunteers. We can go through. Everyone was I made sure it was a comfortable, I tried to make sure it was a comfortable, safe environment to have a little tea, have a little nice, relaxing environment, but also being able and being comfortable to speak about these very important, serious topics that we aren't necessarily given the space to talk about. There was music playing while we were talking seriously about the social systems we function under. What is policing? What is the purpose? What role does police play in American society? But as well as, how was your weekend? So it was a really cool environment to have, especially for kids. These students were, again, a combination of kids from the Spack and Kill community, as well as Oakwood students. There was a young kid that was 11 years old. It went all the way to kids who are 18. Again, all high school students. I'm upset that this video isn't here. Again, you can see it on my Instagram, at Mary Haddad Art. This was a time lapse of the students painting the portraits. I think it was Ahmad, but I think so. So this picture is a picture of the painting after the students painted. So this has none of my painting. This is all of the kids. I wanted to like kind of take a step back and see what the kids were able to accomplish. Because this was my first go around with this type of style. I think it came out wonderfully, to be honest. I think it's beautiful, like even like this, to have kids who have like even never a paintbrush, kids who don't do art, but also painters like Tamir Rice's portrait. I was helped by an artist who's who graduated, is in high school, is in college now. Her name's Brandon, and she helped me a lot with like fixing Tamir's portrait, making it look more like him. Also, artists like Anne and Janine, who has like I think she's on her way home. But hopefully
Janine
she'll be
just
able to
joined,
pop in.
actually.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me finish and then we can chat it up. Janine is here. Yay! And we'll talk about that. She helped so much on this project. There's a bunch of kids, like the kids that I just mentioned, who stayed even later because they lived on campus at Oakwood, and they stayed even later helping me paint. So yeah, so this is what the kids did. This is what the volunteers did. And then this is a photo that I took right after I was done painting. This is me going in, crisping the lines, adding more detail, restarting some faces, restarting some parts, making sure it's all perfect. This is it right next to each other. This is actually a photo of it at Cornell Creative Arts Center. And it took a total of 324 hours. It took me a very, very long time, 20 hours of it being volunteer work. And I'm not going to go into detail, but I do want to go through the slides so people who are watching can pause it. These are just notes as to who these people are, their names, and what happened, how they were murdered by the police. I'm gonna go through. I also made sure to use portraits of them smiling, because I think that's really important how we depict victims of police brutality and police violence. We always see them with a straight face, kind of dehumanizing or criminalizing the victims of systemic violence. So I made sure to choose pictures of yeah. That's really it for the process. These are some books to read. I always like to end it by kind of talking about how policing, this is a system that's in function. This isn't a one bad apple concept. We need to start having conversations on redistributing our resources, who owns what in this country, how this country is a police state. We need to start having those conversations, or keep having those conversations, to keep educating ourselves, because we kind of get lost in the notion that because Black Lives Matter isn't on the mainstream anymore, it's not like at the tip of our tongues in conversation, which is understandable considering the everything that we've gone through. But it's important to know that this isn't over. The Black Lives Matter movement is not over. We are still fighting for liberation, and it's good to educate yourself on what is policing, how does it relate to who owns what, how it relates to capitalism as well, and economic systems as well as social systems and political systems that uphold these systemic violence. So yeah, my Instagram is Mary Haddad Art. Just focus on that. Please give me a follow, and if you want to watch the videos too, you can see the videos there. I also have more information about the mural. So yeah, again, Mary Haddad Art. And how do we stop? So yeah, I think if Janine's here, I'd love if Janine can say a few words as to her experience. I stopped sharing my screen, right?
Yes.
As to her experience, me and Janine are good friends. We've been keeping in touch. Where's she at?
Hi, Mary. Hi, everyone. Good evening. So, as previously stated, my name is Janine Tobias. I'm a senior at Oakwood Friends School, and I worked with Mary on this project my sophomore year of high school, I believe. Yeah. And it was just amazing to see so many people that don't know each other but have similar interests come in and work on the project together, because there were a few students from Oakwood, but a lot of Mary's friends that I have never spoke to, or I've never met Mary like before we started working on the mural. And it's amazing that we became such close friends over or because of like something that is so big and affects more than just us. And I've made a lot of friends through this project, and like a lot of connections to people that I didn't know had the same interests as I do, because I feel like this is a problem that not only adults have to deal with, but it affects the youth just as much as it affects adults, because systemic racism, it's going to catch up to everyone eventually, and there's only so much we can do about it before it has us in a chokehold. So I feel like the earlier we start to learn about these things and the earlier we start to teach others about them, the better it will be in the future, because we're the upcoming generation, and we're going to be those adults that have to deal with these things and have to go to these court cases and learn all the ins and outs of policing and systemic racism and courts and how to deal with those types of situations. So the earlier we learn about it, the better we'll be for the future. Yeah.
Thank you both so much for sharing all the work you did on this project. And I'll ask if anyone here has any questions. You could take yourself off mute, or you could write it in the chat and I'll read it for Mary and Janine.
Yes, please.
And if no one has any questions, I'll wait a couple minutes, but if no one has any questions, I'll ask again at the end. Okay, well, if a question comes to mind, please write it in the chat. We'll come back to it at the end. Mary and Janine, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
So next up, Edison, you could take yourself off mute. I'm going to spotlight you. Hey,
Hello,
Edison,
how's
how are
everyone?
you?
All right. This exhibition has been empowering, because it's an opportunity for artists to really share their voice. Because during 2020, I was out in the city in New York, and I was doing murals. These are one of my murals that I did right here. If you read what it says. So that's the type of thing that parents, they don't want to see their children get killed. Police brutality, and it's just one of those things. It's a downward spiral. Even today, I'm looking in the news. We still dealing with it, no matter what. It's like nonstop. I got a news feed about how 5 states is trying to re-implement slavery in the ballots. So we're dealing with something that it's, my piece, I wanted to honor the late Congressman John R. Lewis. And, his story is very unique, from when he was a little kid, when he was growing up, and what he did, and the courage he had as a young youth, be a leader at a young age, it's powerful. Because you don't have to wait till you older. Pretty much that's the piece right there. So I decided to create this piece because I even wrote a poem with it. It's just I call the 400-year plus locomotive train of injustice, of inequality, of racism. I mean, all of that, it's so deep within even our own culture, being Black, you have amongst our own people, it's something that it started from back then and it carried on. Because if you told somebody they're dumb or stupid and you keep saying that, it gets into their skin, it gets into their soul. And somehow that goes from generation to generation because, it's just crazy. So with the piece I decided to come up with, I just wanted to, do something for what he did in his life and celebrate that because he was a true freedom fighter. He went through riots, Selma. I mean, he did so much, and just to read about his story and see it, like on the videos and his interviews and so forth. This, and we still fight, and he passed away, and we still fight it, and but this piece I made of him, it's actually made from a tub of one of those organizing where you put clothes away bins, the cover. So this piece is actually made from a cover of a plastic bin, and I put all that together. I use mixed mediums, and that's what came out of it. That piece right there, John R. Lewis, Congressman.
Mm.
If you get closer to his eyes, you see his eyes. Yeah, it's a three-dimensional piece, and my work is three-dimensional. It actually reacts differently depending on the lighting. But what he stood, it was something else, and we're still fighting. We're still fighting. We got to put an end. We got to put the stop to that locomotive train because it's embedded in our communities. It's I don't know. I mean, as an artist, all I could do is my protest is through art. So when I was out there, I was protesting, doing murals such as this one here, other murals in Manhattan, in the city, in Soho. And it's just to send a message to the people, that, what, forget about all the hate. Love is the most important, powerful emotion. And if we treat each other like we want to be treated, then, we'll be in a lot better place. We'll be in a lot better place.
Edison, would you like to talk about the other piece in the show?
Well, this piece here, so the reason I have this picture up, because this is the African Queen. It got destroyed by a Karen. We had it in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and myself, I did everything. I did the whole background. I did the shiki. I did around the afro. I had one of my friends. He just did the afro in the face, but I did everything else. The whole was a huge mural, and it was on a concrete wall. And when that got destroyed, I decided to not let that stop me, and I created a piece in honor of this piece, and that's called Queen.
Got it.
And if you look at Queen, you got a picture of Queen?
Yes, getting it.
This piece right here is another three-dimensional piece, and it just talks about, how important a woman is, how important queens are, because in these days and age, they're strong because their children is getting abused or getting killed, and some in prison, and what a mother has to go through, what she has to endure, to even provide food on the table. Being a single parent mom is not easy. And the Queen, she played both the mother and the father. at times. So I wanted to do a piece that was in honor of a queen. And this is the piece here. I am using Swarovski crystals. I made the crown. This is all made with porcelain, the face. You know, I incorporated the earrings where one of my friends, she has a company called She's So Cool. And pretty much I took the earrings that I got from her and I put my artistry style on it. So all that's embodied into this one piece. And that's the queen, you know, and what a queen stand for, you know, is the strength that they have to through the years, from grandmothers, from all the queens. What you look at all of your queens in your life, and when you were growing up, what impact they had. You know, because a lot of times now, a lot of people didn't have a father figure. So I wanted to put that into the, you know, have that some positive there, and just give you know, celebration for our queens, you know.
Thank you so much, Edison. Does anyone have any questions about Edison's work? And again, if you want to put it in the chat, or you can take yourself off mute. Yeah.
I'll just say one thing. I don't really have a question, but I think it's really impressive work. I was going to ask you, Edison, was this there on Newburgh when we were in Newburgh over the summer? Was
Oh
it over there?
yes,
Yes,
that was
yes.
at the I was on 111.
Right.
On
It
Broadway.
was, I saw it live there. It's really cool and striking. And I love the way you worked with it and used such simple items to turn it into artwork and make a statement. It was really impressive. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you. Did you read my poem? Because I had a poem with my art.
I believe I did. I remember, you know, I went back a couple of times because I had different reasons to go over there. And I mean, that was a beautiful exhibition. And
Yes,
your work was there, and Sabrina was there, and there were so many people, different types of people. And I was there many times, and people, because they knew I was somehow connected to it, and I'd be adjusting little things or something, and they'd say, many times people thanked me for putting it there because it was this place where anybody could see it. You know, it was free, and there were offices there. It was in public housing. It was a really great place.
You know, one thing I would say is called safe harbors.
That's
When
right.
it was at safe harbors, it really helped uplift the building, people that live there.
Yeah.
You know, because it shows them something and it gives them something that they ain't see before, probably, you know, to have that there. So yeah. Really cool.
It was nice. So it was beautiful work.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind. I used to live on the Lower East Side, so I was curious where on the Lower East Side your work is.
Ludlow.
In where?
It was on Ludlow and Grand, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was interesting because they, to this day, the way they, let me see if I show you a picture. I mean, I didn't like the fact that they destroyed our work, you know? That's the whole thing. Like, they destroyed it. Let me see if I can show you.
When did that happen, Edison?
2020 in the summertime. Yep, 2020. And ever since then, I'm just like, oh. So that's why I came up with the Queen. Yeah. Let's see if I have it. Well, it's on my Instagram. If you guys want to follow me, it's Eyes That Love Art.
Okay.
Yeah, EYES That Love Art. Yeah.
I just added that to the chat.
Great.
So if
Thank
anyone
you.
wants to grab it.
Thank you.
Edison, thank you so much for talking about your work. And if anyone has another question, just put it in the chat and we'll come back to it later on. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, so I want to just quickly talk about one of the artists who's in the show wasn't able to be here tonight, but she sent me an artist statement and asked to read it to those that were here. And so the artist is Priscilla DeConti, who is also in the show. I'm going to share her work here so we can see it. And so Priscilla DeConti found her creative voice later in life through learning and meditative drawing, a method called Zentangle. This method uses patterns, shapes, and lines to create art. Traditional Zentangle is done on 3.5-inch squares in black and white. From that, her art has evolved to learning watercolors, color pencils, and several other mediums. She started exploring different shapes in which to use Zentangle patterns. And in 2018, she decided that she wanted to do something for Black History Month and that's when she started doing silhouette headdresses, which led to doing full dress silhouettes. In doing those items, she did a lot of research about what all of the different symbols and colors and shapes meant. The colors, the types of garments, the simplicity or the elaborate all represent different things to different tribes or sectors of African countries. Her selections for the exhibit exemplify her belief in strong Black women who have forged ahead during their lifetimes, and then thanked everyone, all of the artists, for being involved in the show, and said she was thrilled to be a part of the show. And so that's Priscilla's work. I think we're going to hear from another artist who's here, Lotus. And Lotus will let me know when they're ready. But David, I could share some work from the New Horizons grouping, and if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Great.
Oh, well, this is an interesting piece. And actually, it's not from New Horizons, although they gave it to me. It's from Family Services of Dutchess County. And we did, like I said, open up the show to other nonprofits and also to anybody in the community. And these are patchworks. They were sewn together. The theme was Black Lives Matter. It went together around the same time that our piece, our whole discussion began after the shooting of George Floyd. And it was done by a workshop, by children in a workshop who have experienced gun violence in the Poughkeepsie or surrounding area. And they have a regular group that they meet with. Now, these kids, they could have been seeing a shooting. They could have been living in an apartment building where they just heard gunshots and got frightened. So they worked with them on a regular basis. And after that particular event, they worked with them, and they were asked to just put a design on patchwork, and then they sewed it together and they put it on display at the Family Partnership Center in the old Poughkeepsie High School in downtown Poughkeepsie. And then when we had our exhibition, I approached them to see, because I knew they had a lot of beautiful artwork in that building. I, asked Brian Doyle if he would talk to who manages that, and would they do something with us, and they offered us this. So it's been with the show since we've been up in Cornell. I love it because it's done by children, really on their own. And it also brought home to me, when I first heard about it, I couldn't believe the number of them, because each patchwork is representative of one child's experience. So, I mean, it really brought home the number of people in our own local area that have experienced this. And that's what it's all about. If you get to see it, you can get a good look at some of them and see how they've expressed themselves. This was done by someone on our committee. And this kind of, I got to know this woman and I work together on a regular basis, and Black woman. And she used to be a direct support professional. She became a house manager. She then went on to move at our administration office. She studied accounting. She got her master's, and then she got stolen away from us by Goldman Sachs. So, but she did this piece of work at the same time as her responses of, as a young Black woman emerging into adulthood, her experiences. And we talked together on a regular basis, separate from this. I knew she was just a few offices down from me. And when we were writing essays at one point, we put them in our agency newsletter so people could express themselves. She told me a story that she, when we were leaving work one night, or not necessarily one night she was with me, but I often walked out with her. She stopped by a strip mall to get detergent. And when she got out of the car, the police approached her And they said that her car matched the description of a stolen vehicle or a robbery that had just happened. And she was really frightened, and being Black, being alone. And they made her stand there. Then they made her sit in the car, and she wasn't allowed to leave. And they stood by her, and finally they let her leave. They did some checking, and they found out that there was something wrong with the description, that it wasn't that car. So they let her go. But she had really experienced the idea that the way she was stopped, the way her rights were taken away, that she had nothing to do with it. And really, there was minimal description. They attached her to it. That she just kind of used this to express her sort of the challenges she faced to move on, to build the career she's now building, and the things that were in her head as she as she moved every day. And that's what this piece reflects. This was done by somebody who receives supports from us. It's one of 3 pieces that's in the show. And unfortunately, the person that the direct support professional who works with this young man or man, he what she did with him was she worked the collage to see what thoughts, and he like how he thought about these issues that were on his mind, like what he was afraid of, and how we should express ourselves, which you see people up in the left-hand corner, and the fears, and well, he also talks, he picked out diversity, equity in America from a series of magazine articles, and then he put these on here, and she let him do it pretty much how he wanted to, and it's just a collage of that, reflecting reflecting that piece, and his own concerns about this, that it's on his mind. So that's what it was. Oh, this one was done by one of our houses in Ulster County. And in this is a particularly large house with all adults, and not like young adults, maybe 50s, 60s kind of adults. They're about 7 or 8 of them have had experience in I forget the exact term we use, but speaking up and self-representing themselves in the community. Also, if you're in one of our day programs and you're able, you do a daily debrief on the news in the newspapers. They will take you through it, so you understand what's going on in the world you live in. So a lot of them are attuned to the news. There was 5 or 6 people in this house. This is one of our larger houses. It has about 12 people in it still. And some of them were older, and they had lived through other experiences of racial upheaval. And they asked, and again, the manager of the house led them through it. Self-advocacy. That's it, Muriel. I'm sorry. Thank you for jumping in. And they talked about this issue, and that's why we named it Enough Already, because they had lived through it generationally, and they were looking. These words really respected people, that were a family. Those things are things they would say. Then you see directly Black Lives Matter. All these ideas of pursuing progress. They have a sense of what's going on in the world, this particular group of people. And they, because they're in these types of programs of self-advocacy, they can express themselves better than some of the other people in the programs. And that's how they came together with this. This was done by a group of people, by a house manager who takes care of people in our care that are physically, and it's almost, it's a house where people have a lot of physical and emotional and developmental issues. So they have a lot of challenges in their lives, and some of them don't get out of bed. Some of them can't walk. There's about 12 people in this house. It's one of more of our, houses where it's really a care facility. And, but they're also, they can express themselves. And all these words are the words she asked them about. She would go into the TV room and say, how do you feel? And they'd say, I'm sad. And that's what she came up with the concept of the broken heart. And, what people are entitled to is freedom and liberty. And then these words on the side, like disrespect, how do you, what's going on? They're oppressed. She gathered those words and put them in there and added them to this. And that's them expressing themselves. this sculpture was done by a house. It's reflecting that this is a worldwide program, and it was led by the young woman who was working in the house, was the woman who wrote the original note that we received about that brought this whole project together. Now they have people in this house are also, able to express themselves well. They talked about it and they wanted to show the whole world. So they came up with this concept of a globe, an abstract version of the globe. They have autism in the house. And that if you notice down at the bottom, you'll see that they've used those puzzle pieces, which is kind of the symbolism of autism. The fist for Black Lives Matter is on there. Educating people is one of the other things you can see there. And on the other side, there's one of those pieces that you can't see here is physical, that represents physical disabilities. So those puzzle pieces at the bottom represent all the different issues that are surrounding this. And then, that it's a global problem.
Yo.
This was done in our day facility. It was done by a group of people. I don't know if you're that familiar with a term called Prader-Willi syndrome, but they have, they're a group that works together. They have Prader-Willi syndrome affects your eating habits, and you're constantly hungry, and it's a very challenging disease to have. And they're also a very caring bunch. They all work very hard together, and they are very emotional and supportive of people who are suffering. And they are certainly a group that's capable of understanding this issue. And so they picked out in their collage some very specific themes. Like you can see at the top, it's together we can make change happen. They live a very challenged life. And you can see that they have a more keen understanding that this is a racial issue. And they picked out a lot of terms, a lot of pictures and words that, call for unity, call for working together. And that's how they express themselves. This piece was done by a house. It's really led in many ways. It's the idea of a gun blowing up the world. Again, the young, you can see they wrote George Floyd in there and different people that have, lost their lives through gun violence. The young woman with the eyes with the tears there. Again, the puzzle pieces symbolize autism. And, but it's a very striking piece. We put it in a lot of literature on the exhibition. And, it's striking. And I've had people, it became the lead piece when we had the 5 exhibits going, that was picked by all the different locations together, but that's really what we're, afraid of. And it came through a discussion that one of the people in the house one of the workers had an artistic ability, but they talked through the issue with them and talked about how they would express it. And then she kind of managed some of the development of it. And that's how the piece was created. This was done by this woman. She didn't do it. She coached a team. It was run by a group of people. Again, asking them how to think about this issue, how to think about racism, how to think about injustice based on race. And they, again, looked for words and then for pictures that would express it, and who would be affected by it. That was one of her questions to them. So what was this really about? And that it was race, and they understood that. They don't understand everything the way maybe we would, but they understand it, and they can clearly express. They know right from wrong, and they know injustice. We talked about self-advocacy. They know how to speak up for themselves. And I've spoken to some of these people, and they are able to, they get it, and they feel it the way that any of us could feel it in a more sophisticated way. And this is just their way of getting their thoughts out and expressing it and being a part of this discussion. This was not done by one of the people we support. This was done by a woman in Poughkeepsie that works at Poughkeepsie High School. Her name is Christina Peterson, and she works in guidance at Poughkeepsie High School. Somebody knew her. She also does some artwork. It's called Little Fires Everywhere. And that's a Black woman sitting, a Black mother, back on the idea of the Black mother sitting on top of the world, trying to put out all these fires every day in her life. And, she was expressing that, in her own way about, the challenges they face, the overwhelming challenges, and that they keep going, and sort of expressing that gratitude in a different way, just through a painting. And that's what this piece is about. This is this is another piece that she developed, the same woman, and she wanted, this was sort of the other planets looking at us, and saying like, what's going on with that planet, and how, kind of like, what would other worlds think if they came here and saw this? We're us in a fishbowl of being viewed by the world. And could you imagine, what they would think of this being an issue when they come to look at our planet? So it's a different take on, maybe we should see that very simply, that this just is not the right way to treat people, and injustice is wrong. This was done by this was one of the original pieces, and it's actually, there's 4 smaller pieces. I don't know if you'll have them that actually went with this. So it was one of the first things we did. And the same woman that did that larger piece of with the words and the women on there, she led a team. She worked on 2 pieces. So what she developed here was, again, she said, what were the words? And if they couldn't find the words, they wrote them on. But she was insistent that they do it. And she wasn't gonna, some of them took the challenge a little bit differently. They talked with the people, and the managers or the person working the piece with them might help them with the actual layout. She wanted this to just be them. So how they created it, they did all the cutouts. And this really is a piece totally created by people receiving support. You see, some of the writing isn't even exactly right. So it's honest. And that's why, it resonates with a lot of people. Yeah, this one was an interesting piece. I had a long talk with the manager that created it. The people, if you notice this, and I noticed this this was one of the first pieces that were ever created that I ever got. And it talks more about the past. And one of the reasons that when I went back to find out more about the piece, was that this is a house of people who are over 60 at least, and 60 into their 70s. People have lived with New Horizons for a very long time. And you'll notice that George Floyd is up there, but the idea of, they came up with that word. It's like, why is this still happening? And I actually call the piece, I named the piece Still with the question mark, but you'll see they didn't talk as much about George Floyd. It's like, they thought this was done when they with Martin Luther King. They thought, we fixed this. Why is it happening now? And you can see they asked about that, and then they went and wanted to find stories about Martin Luther King, because that's their sense of racism, is when we thought we fixed this. And they had a real hard time with that. I talked to the house manager. She was trying to talk to them about this. They understood the George Floyd murder, but that was really something on their mind. Like, why are we doing this again? And that was where that idea Still, they thought it was a fixed thing. And that's why there's so much expression of, there's some of George Floyd, but also what happened in the past, because that's what racism, that's how they think of it. That's how they experienced it.
David, those are the images I have. Thank you so much for talking about all the stories behind all of those pieces and being their voice, and all the work you've done. Does anyone have any questions for David?
I just have a comment. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, just to see that was like my whole point when I did the John R. Lewis, and to have someone from the house that's in their 60s, 70s, looking back in their era and looking fast forward and seeing it still happening, and still comes out of it, is the 400 years of the train, the locomotive. The locomotive just keep on chewing. That's crazy. That's all I gotta say. That's just wow.
Yeah, I felt that too. I was, a lot of the people that worked on these have developmental disabilities. And I have consistently been saying, like, why is it taking them to teach us this? They're teaching us. I go there and, I just don't like, they can answer the question. They know it. They feel it. It's not rocket science. They know the answer. It's just wrong. Interesting.
Thank you, David.
Welcome.
And we're going to hear finally from Lotus. Lotus, you want to take yourself off mute? I'll spotlight you and just let me know when you want me to share one of your images.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you all. Also appreciate the opportunity through New Horizons. Oh man. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, no worries.
So it's an emergency where I'm at. That's the noise they say. Okay, it's gonna pass. I'm thinking it's Morse code, but I don't. So if I could continue. Okay, here we go. Yes, you can start sharing. Oh, I am Lotus. Thank you so much. And I consider myself a spoken word lyricist. I also sing. I do different mediums, sculpture, painting, different things like that. So I guess when you see my work, you can ask me questions. Not all of my work is not there in the gallery, but yeah. I can't see what you see, so I can't hear you. Okay, all right, so that's 8 pieces. I know you count 7, but that's 8 pieces. So did you have them, Ms. Perez, did you have them individually or no? Or can you zoom in?
I might be able to grab, if you talk about this, I can see if there's anything else I have.
So yeah, if you could zoom in or something like that. I don't know if everybody can see all the pieces because I know one of them is a little bit light. So the entire piece does not have a name. My work is more so for an experience, right? And if you look, it's set up like that, literally in an order on purpose. But the entire piece creates the 8th piece. So top left, that is a glass of water. Oh, I'm sorry, glass half full or empty. So typically, we are given these different obstacles in life as a normal human being, right? I guess you could say normal, right? But when we're given these obstacles, it's as though we're supposed to either take it or leave it or look at it positively or negatively, right? So this was supposed to question the viewer, if you will, is the glass half full or half empty? And I know everyone's heard that term before, but when you're dealing with people in the Black community, you're automatically, despite what you are given, you're automatically supposed to look at it positively, despite the fact that you're given all these obstacles. Okay, the gentleman below, he is the king of Turtle Island. Turtle Island was what I'm guessing America, I want to say America used to be called. But if you notice, he's not necessarily wearing a crown. His hair is his crown, but the wheat piece that's on him is considered the crown. A lot of times we are given materialistic values to display what something means. Our look, our appearance, our name brands, the things that we wear and stuff like that. He also is wearing a turtleneck. His eyes are closed. The other piece that you'll see on there, the eyes are closed, that's also relevant to something else. That ties to my piece as well. But his head is held high despite the things that he's been given. He is the king. Searching for his queen, which if you move over to the middle on the bottom, that is him reaching out, not necessarily him, but anyone, because the pieces, while they are individually what they are, they all tell an individual story. But once you put them all together, hence the eighth piece, it just, pretty much tells the story of the experience. Okay. So you got the hands, which is reaching out to nothing. But the slight little movements or indications of movements that's on there is the fact that you still have motion, you're still reaching out for something. The body of water that's right next to it is supposed to be that something of abundance that you're reaching towards. Lotus flower, there's supposed to be purity and hence the name, but it's supposed to represent, new life, new beginnings, the pureness of it. But the hand is reaching out towards that abundance. While it's not necessarily within its grasp, it's within its grasp, And if you look above that, that is trunk, TR quotation UNK. Oh, I'm sorry, TR quote ANKH. Okay, so it's an ankh. I don't know if you could view closer, but it's shaped like an ankh. An ankh is supposed to represent the togetherness of the community. Okay, man, woman, child. If you ever know, if you've ever looked up what ankh stands for and things like that, but it's supposed to be a whole scenic thing, and the roots on there is supposed to be grounding us as a family, but also as a community, because it's not just us individually there, right? And if you move over to the right, noticeable lips, she is embraced in her crown, which is her hair. But I got questions from this piece, particularly because of her lips. And if you ever notice, we as Black people, we have these beautiful features, but we're always demonized for our features, our hair, especially our skin tone, our lips, our ears, our nose, all these things. You can look back into history and see all the different things that's been said about us when it comes to our person. So her lips she's confident, her lips are large, and she loves her lips. She loves her hair. She loves her crown. She loves her skin that she's in, and he is King of Toronto looking for his queen. And while she's a queen in herself, in her own right, this is what it is in this community. Somebody touched on that earlier about being single and being a parent and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that ties to that, and that's where we're going to in a couple of minutes. But above, right next to her at the top right, those are flowers. And I don't know if you can see it, but that is actually a Black flower, which is rare. And there's the emergency thing here. Sorry, guys. The blue flower is supposed to represent the sky. Now, the sky, as we all know, as we can view it in our perception, it is not below us, right? But in this piece, I wanted it to be on the bottom on purpose. But there's tiny little, oh, I'm sorry, I have to give a warning also, trypophobia warning, just in case if you ever zoom in or if you ever see the piece in person, there are tiny little dots. So if it affects you, please don't. I appreciate you wanting to view it, but if you have a trypophobia condition, please don't get too close to it, okay? But it does have little tiny dots. They look pixelated from afar, but up close, you'll see the detail. The Black Dahlia is one of the rarest flowers, Black flowers, and they do exist, but they're rare, right? There are brown dots all over this piece, which is Black and brown is supposed to be a complexion, I guess, war in a sense, whether it be from the Black community or other, there's always going to be those type of issues plaguing us, conditionally, not just from us, but from other races as well. If you look below that, this is called Nation of Sorts. So a lot of my pieces I make from literally nothing, and I appreciate you all having it there. But this ties to the many things that actually stem from systemic racism, okay, in this country. So having the nothing to still be able to become something, or have something, or have nothing to become something. You know what I mean? So it's like so many things tied to that. And I know that I only have a little bit of time, but I would love to discuss that on another time if it is allowable. But all of my pieces literally connect to what is happening with us, not just here in America, but all over this globe, right? If you go to Nation of Swords, those are actually shackles. There is blood on them, not real blood, of course, but it's supposed to be symbolic of that. I don't know where it went.
I have a close-up of that piece.
Oh,
I do.
okay. Thank you.
Yes. Second.
Yes. So Nation of Swords, as you know, within the Black community, a lot of the times, and the shackles actually stems from, we all know, racism, slavery, right? So the shackles are broken, but they're still there. They're still on something. And if you look at the praying hands could be viewed as the person inside praying versus the person outside praying, because the person inside is going to impact the person just outside of that jail system, right? And those lines are supposed to be jail. If you look to the left of that particular piece, I'm sorry, within the piece, I don't know if you guys can see closer, but our Nation of Swords is supposed to be what is supposed to be a fair and just system, right? But we all know it's not, because everybody that's impacted, or majority of who's impacted, are Black people, and especially Black men. And you know, you see Black children, Black women, like regardless of anything, and I'm just being honest here, regardless of anything, we're impacted on a greater number because of our skin. And it's unfortunate and it's unfair. So within that piece, you see the American flag. The American flag is upside down. Any event that you go to, the American flag is right up. It's inert. Like, you know, you'll see just people pledging allegiance to that. But, you know, what are you really pledging? You know, and not to question anyone here, but what are we really pledging when it comes to these atrocious acts that has happened to our people? You know, whether it be from Black people or not, but majority of the issues are happening to a particular race. And I'm gonna touch on that in a second. But I tied the kente cloth into that because we all know about the kente cloth scandal not too long ago. And I tied those together because at one point, are we going to realize that this is a union, right? They say a United States of America, right? So we're supposed to be united on a united front. But at the same time, we have these things happening to us, right? Nation is upside down because our nation is upside down. That's just a personal thing, but you can take it if you like. But at the same time, I really feel strongly that there's a lot of things happening. And listening to the panelists here and the artists here, it seems like I'm not the only person that views these things and that can only see these things. So that's just a little bit of that green line that you all see in the middle of that is a rope, and that is a person that is being lynched in that. And I hate to be vulgar, but at the same time I have to, because these are the truths that we have been given. This is what we are living. This is what we are dying from. Okay, the injustice in these systems and outside of the system. You know, there is another couple pieces that's not on that. All of those together are supposed to tie into it. Along with the many things that we have to experience negatively, we still see the positivity. We still uplift each other. We still love. You know, regardless of how much hate has been directed toward us in any instance, any situation, anything, we march in peace, we pray, you know, that touches on some other works that I've done. That's verbal, my spoken word ties to all of these as well. If you see here, all of that on their hair, okay, red, black, and green represents something. This is a woman that, again, is embracing her hair. She has different hair tones, complexions, is one thing that we all have been conditioned to fight against within our own community, you know. So her hair is different colors as well, because it's been depicted as we can't have blonde hair, we can't be beautiful if we're not blonde, or if we're not of a certain complexion, and so on and so forth. you know, and it ties all of that in there. She is singing, you know, this piece is called From Within, and you can take that however which way you want to interpret it, but it's from within, because you can sing from within, you can feel from within, you can love from within, you know, and how you feel is going to impact someone else and externally, you know, it's going to impact somebody outside of you. So she's singing. So when somebody sings, you can hear them sing, right? So if you can hear them sing, you can hear their emotion, you can hear what they're trying to say, you can hear their message, you know. But again, these are all tied to a bigger picture in a sense. Oh, no pun intended, right? But yeah, there's that one. Oh, the other thing is they're prismed. They're prismed. That's supposed to reflect something, literally. I have a show, Grow and Thrive, that's going to be coming up. All of these pieces will be featured in the show, amongst other ones that I've done that's not readily available right now to view. But the reflection is supposed to, I guess, in a sense, show you who you are. We look in the mirror to see what we look like, right? But also, when you look at something, when you hear something, you reflect on those things. And when you think about something, and these pieces are supposed to bring up that thought process, like, what are we thinking here? You know, so going to the next piece, like I said, all of them are connected. This piece is called Pathology of a People. This is a sculpture that I've done. You cannot see the whole piece. Like I said earlier, this is an experience. So in order for you to see this piece, you have to go to where it is. It's not at AMH, of course, we know. But this piece, you can walk around this piece, you can look at the details and things like that. But this literally tells a story from shackles up until, you know, we see the American flag there and things like that. If you scroll down on it, you'll see a placenta. Yes, my work is pretty vulgar, but at the same time, you have to see the blunt, honest truth. You have to hear the blunt, honest truth in order for you to make the change. Not necessarily you, but people to make the change in which they wish to see. I think somebody said that, right? I know we all know who said that. But the sword, I would actually, I would love to have a separate conversation for this piece, but I know I don't have that much time. But this is showing that foundationally, these conditions have been embedded in us. You know, we have the red, black, and green on there as well. She is sitting on a black podium, even though she's standing up, that black hand, I mean, that red hand print, that bloody print, that's hers, trying to protect her child. The sunflower is supposed to be representative of something beautiful as well. There's pearls on there. She has not given birth, but she's still trying to protect her seedling. But at the same time, we're coming from these different tribes in other lands, and we're coming here, and we're force fed to take in these things, take in these roles, take in what we're supposed to learn and all these things, but still take all of the beating. If you see the piece in person, you'll see what I mean when I say that. She does have a shackle on her neck. She has an autopsy. She's been autopsied. The shackle is also on her baby that's not been born yet, that's been forced the teachings of whatever condition you might want to think of. There's cotton on her. She's supposed to be Mother Earth. She's supposed to be protected. But she still has to bear the fruit that this land is supposed to sow, right? I'm sorry. This is just some things that we literally have endured as a community. And it is my task, it's my duty to teach these things, whether it be something that someone doesn't like or not. And believe it or not, I have been getting a lot of negative feedback from my own community when it comes to this. But at the same time, and it's still my responsibility to teach them, you know, we can still rise from these ashes. We can still progress. We can get better. We can do better. And also to teach others, we don't want to be treated this way. We deserve to not be. And like I said, there's a whole nother conversation with this piece as well. Thank you.
Lotus, thank you so much for sharing your powerful work and for all the artists for speaking your mind freely and just telling us about the process you went through to create all this work. And we are just so honored to show your work in our gallery, and we hope to have many more opportunities to work with you all and show your work. Does anyone have any questions for Lotus or any of the other artists involved that are here?
I just got to say that's amazing. I see your process, your thought process, and what you want to bring to light. It's definitely coming to fruition. It's definitely deep. It's real, and I mean honestly, that's your way. Where I feel that's awesome, because you know, one thing that I realize is that the younger youth, they don't really understand. They're looking at what's today. They don't really look at what's in the past. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, slavery ain't nothing for me. I wasn't in slavery. I don't know. So, but they don't understand that's innate into them from that time on. The locomotive is going again. And so, you know, to bring that to now, you know, like I was saying earlier, there's 5 states that have slavery on the ballot. And
slavery never ended.
Well, that's what I'm
just
saying. But now what they're trying to do is on a legal side of it with the Constitution. If you look into that, it's even deeper now, because slavery's in prison, slavery's all over. So that's a whole mental slavery as a fact too. But I love your work though. I love your work.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You as well, brother. Like I said, this is why I was telling you, Miss Perez. Like, there's these things are conversations, you know. And like I said, I appreciate, you know, the opportunity having to have my work displayed there at both galleries. But it's literally bigger than just what the pictures. This is saying on that, right? You know, look at the bigger picture and things like that. But, you know, this is off canvas, you know. This is all, you know, that might be a segment we could do or something. I don't know. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Does anyone have any final questions? So this has obviously been recorded. It will be shared on our website. And so please share it with your colleagues, your friends, your family, so that anyone who wasn't here can also hear from these artists about their work and see the work. Thank you so much to Mary Haddad, Janine, Edison Romeo, and Lotus, and David McGorry for speaking about all of your work. And just thank you so much. Lotus, do you have something to add?
Well, actually, looking at the chat, someone asked a question.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Timon asked what medium was used, Lotus, in your work.
Which piece? Timon, I think it is. How do I put my hand down? Okay, there it is. Sorry. I think it was Timon, but which piece? Which one? So
I'm asking them to they said the last piece.
The last piece. Okay. So hear me out, right? This last piece, I took a torso. It was I'm sorry, I should say it was a acrylic torso. Sorry. It was like a hard plastic, and I kind of like chopped away at it, and then paper compounds, and I just kind of molded it, you know, to the woman figure. So if you guys see it in person, you'll see that she has a front and a back. So, you know, like I said, this particular piece is a conversation piece, because we're not just talking about the front of somebody, we're also talking about the rear of somebody, and especially within the Black community, there's we've been demonized for our bodies as well. So, and then also you have to keep in mind history with slavery. our bodies were commodity. Okay, so it's a little bit deeper than than that, but it's for the most part it's paint. It's just some things I put together with what I had. So thank you so much for your question.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you as well. Can't see his name. I'm sorry.
Lotus, where can they see that sculpture?
Thank you so much. Both pieces, the last two pieces, are actually at the Ritz Theater, the Historic Ritz Theater in Newburgh, New York. It is in the lobby of that theater. You have to either call and make an appointment to go, or you can call me. You can follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, put your Instagram in the chat so everybody can find you.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Does anyone have any final questions or thoughts?
I just gotta say one thing. So this is the piece I did. It was on Ludlow and Grand Street in Lower East Side of Manhattan, right? But that's what we did, to speak about what was going on and what's still going on today. And this is what they did to it. Because of the powerfulness of the piece that we did, it had a meaning. It said a lot. It talked about African women. It talked about the Queen. It talked about, they don't want to have their children die to police brutality, black on black crime, all of that. And here it is. Someone comes and destroys it because they don't like the message, because it's the truth.
So when you showed the other picture, that's how it was. That's what happened.
Yep. So this is what.
So that's what that's what you would see now. That's the original.
That's gonna be there still, down on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. That piece. So they came and blacked out the message that we did, and then of course the other graffiti artists in the neighborhood, wherever they at, they're gonna do their own thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
canvas, but it was initially blacked out by a Karen. That's the word on the street.
get it. Okay.
Oh man. Wow.
So they blacked it out, and then everybody came and just say, "Hey, let's start doing our thing." But this is what it was before, and I'm gonna tell you, this was so powerful.
That's why I want to say I'm just so glad you got good documentation of it, Edison.
Right.
You're finding ways to continue to show it. That is so infuriating that it was damaged. And I would just encourage all artists to take a look at it depends on what happens, but there is a Visual Artists' Rights Act that protects public art. And so if it was a random person who came and defaced it, that's a different story. But if it was the building owner, that would be illegal. Because you have the rights to your work, even if it is on somebody else's property. If it's
It was a
there.
random person, lady.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear that, but thank you for sharing that story. And it goes right alongside what Mary Haddad was seeing happen to the Black Lives Matter banner outside of the Oakwood Friends School. It just goes to show when artists speak out and share messages, that's going to initiate pushback. And that's why we just have to go even harder and continue to make sure that our message is heard.
Yeah, true. If you like, I don't know, did you guys read what it said? Are you able to read it?
Yes, definitely.
And that's that's every mother, every parent don't want to see their children die.
So I actually wanted to touch on that, brother, what you just said. So I am a spoken word lyricist as well, and a mother, and a single mother at that. So not to toot my own horn or nothing like that, but I'm doing it. A piece that I did called Eulogy ties to a lot of the pieces that I've done, and actually speaks to what you're saying, what you said earlier too. That is up on my my Instagram, but I appreciate the works that you all are doing to highlight these situations and injustices that are happening. And I also appreciate the opportunity having to have a platform to actually be on it, to speak on it. I just think that can only go up and get better from here. Hence my show, Grow and Thrive, that's coming up. So yes.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being, again, we are just so honored by your involvement and just, the show will remain up in our gallery until next Thursday. So if you haven't had a chance to get over there and see it, please do so. And there will also be documentation of the show and videos from this on our website after the show comes down. So we'll continue to live on our website as well. Thank you all so much. I
Thank
want to
you.
let you all get on with your evening. Thank you for spending all this time with us and for listening to everybody. And thank you. I'll stick around for a few minutes in case anyone has any final thoughts,
Thank
but
you,
hope
guys.
you all have a wonderful evening.
You
Yeah,
too.
I'll
Thank
just
you.
add, Lilia, thank you, and thanks to
Pleasure,
Arts
guys.
Mid-Hudson because you took this into Poughkeepsie and made it available to more people and gave it another life, because I know we did have some of these in other places, and I'm just so glad to see it there again. So thank you to everyone at Arts Mid-Hudson.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're honored. We were so thrilled to have this be our first show back in our renovated gallery. So please get over there and try to see it if you haven't already.
Yes, thank you.
Good night, everyone. Take
Night.
care.
Good night.